Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, so I wanted to make this video so that you can understand the principles of time management. I personally was terrible at time management. I am no longer because I've had to work on it, and it's hard, alright? For me, personally. But if you can get control of this time, of your days, then you can be the most effective person there is, right? Because your goals, okay, who you will become, is dictated by your daily rituals, what you do with your time day in and day out. Okay? So how do we make that the most effective time possible? First of all, getting time management, I don't know if you've ever felt like this, like your days are controlling you rather than you are controlling your days. Alright? We are going to learn to control our days and stop making it one big tornado of stress and anxiety like it has become for me. And I don't know, it may or may not be like that for you, but I hope this helps you if that is how you feel, or even if it's just a little tweak here and there in your time management, in your priorities, and just helps you through your life, especially with this business, obviously. So, first things first, before we even get into time management, you first need to decide where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're going to get there. Alright? But if you know where you're going, you're definitely going to get there too. Alright? So, your priorities. What is your what's the most important thing in your life? What is the thing that sticks out? Where do you want to go? What are the things that are most important to you? And this might take a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you mine. And tip about your priorities, I wouldn't have more than 5 or 6. 5 would probably be my maximum that you would have. Simply because the people that are focused on less, the people that can focus on the fewest things are the most effective. I don't know if you used to burn leaves with a magnifying glass whenever you were younger, but whenever the light on the ground was bigger from coming through the glass, it didn't do anything. Okay, all it did was shine on the ground. But if you made that light as small as it could possibly be, it would burn through anything. Alright, it would burn through any leaf you brought it to. Same thing happens with your priorities. The fewer things you focus on, the more effective you can be. So, priorities. What's the first thing that the first thing on my priority list, and you can make yours. And I'm not trying to be spiritual on you, but my first priority, hands down, is God. Okay, that's just the truth. All right, he's the first thing on my priority list. Family is number 2. School, for me, I'm getting a degree, is number 3. This business is number 4. And then number 5 is just extracurricular activities, friends, okay, social life. Because I am in college, my social life is a priority actually to me because I want to enjoy the time that I have while I'm in this stage of my life. All right, so these are my 5 priorities. All right, yours are going to be different. If you have a spouse, I highly suggest they're number 2. If you have a family, I highly suggest they're only under God and whatever it is in your life that are your priorities, that your family and your spouse are above your work or your school. That's something I would highly suggest. It definitely sets your life right. I've seen it a million times, but hey, it's your priorities, your life. So we're going to talk about how to actually schedule this on your weekly basis. All right. So start with the priority number 1. Always start with the first priority because that is the most important. Obviously, it's the number 1 priority. So God being my number 1 priority, I would put from 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning. By the way, I get up at 6, I go to bed at 10, gives me 10 to 12, 12 to 6, gives me the ability to wake up and get 8 hours of sleep like I wanted to. I highly suggest getting a good amount of sleep because it makes you the most effective you can be throughout your day. But 6 o'clock is when I wake up. Alright, so 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I'm going to mark out specifically for priority number 1. Alright? So this is God and breakfast, hopefully. Probably 7 to 8 will probably be closer to breakfast, but 6 to 7, that is my number 1 priority. Alright, so now we've got number 1. What's number 2? Family. Alright? Saturday usually is my entire day off. I highly suggest taking at least 1 day off from everything, where you can sleep in late, do whatever you want to do. You will be a more effective person the rest of the week, I promise. Alright? So, my family time, generally, what I like to do is I like to go home on Saturdays. Alright? I need to make that more of a habit because I'm a single guy, so I have my parents and my brother, but I need to make that a habit. 6 o'clock I usually go home, and then Saturdays is my day off for my week. Okay, so we have our number 1 and our number 2 priority. All right, so our number 3 is school. School for me personally is 9 o'clock, and this is just during the summer. I usually go a lot more than this. It's usually 9 o'clock to 10:30. Okay, and then we generally throw in till 11 o'clock, just as a half hour to go over the material that I got that day, so I can have it for the next day. Cool. All right, so now we have number 3. Number 4 is business. Now this is interesting because business is a little different. You need to decide how many hours you're going to work your business. Okay? And you need to write that down, and you're going to have to protect these hours. We're going to come back around to that in a second. But business hours, okay? How many hours are you going to work? I personally like to work 30 hours a week on my business because that's important to me, right? Now yours might be 5, 10, 15, 20. It doesn't have to be 30. Okay, that's just what I like to work. Generally, I try to keep it to 25. I try to get my stuff done and get out. I wouldn't suggest going higher than 25. That's just my suggestion. You will burn yourself out. But I want to work 30, give or take 30 hours. All right? So where am I going to fit that? Well, first of all, I have 6 days. Divide 6 into 30, and you get 5 hours a day. Okay, so where am I going to fit these 5 hours? Well, personally, the best time for me to prospect is usually 6 or 8 o'clock, and I want to have 2 hours before I go to bed just to have dinner, relax, do my personal development. That's generally whenever I'll do that, is 8 o'clock on. So we want to make the last hour 8 o'clock, which means making the first hour 5 o'clock. Excuse me, 3 o'clock. My math is not that bad. 3 o'clock. Alright, to 8 o'clock. So you have this time is business. Okay? So that time is completely marked out. That's my business time. Alright? And then your social, extracurricular, like my extracurricular, I'm currently getting my personal training license right now. Chances are I'll try to schedule that from 1:30 to 3 and have an hour and a half to work on that. Alright? That would be some time that I would like to have because that's extracurricular. Alright? If I need to go to the grocery, it comes in my white space. Do not go to the grocery while I'm working on the business. I don't push it back. I don't do whatever. Point is, when you're making your time for specific things, you have got to be there. That makes this whole thing work. Okay? Be where you are and don't give up your time for other things. Alright, so if you have a family and your family is your number 1 priority, then whenever you're with your family, be there. Do not be texting about Beachbody while you're there. Imagine me slapping you when you do that, okay? Whenever you're with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, it's great to have a date night for your spouse, FYI. I'd make that a priority, but just me. So, if you are going to have certain priorities, be where you are. That is the best advice I can give anybody about time management. If you're working your business and you see your kids playing outside, don't feel guilty. It's okay. This is business time. Family time comes later or came earlier. You set that time. You set that time in for your kids, okay? Because what good is it going to do whenever you're with your kids all the time? But this business that you're using to get out of debt, and you have to pass that debt on to your kids later. This is a priority that you're using to make that thing happen or to make that dream happen. Does that make sense? And it deserves to have time, seeing that it's one of your priorities. Just like your family deserves to have time because they deserve to be one of your top priorities. And God is certainly a priority on my list. So whenever I get up in the morning, I cannot look at my phone from 6 to 7 in the morning. I just can't do it. Okay? Because if I look at my phone, I'm going to get lost in the business, and that's not my business time. Be where you are. And I guarantee if you focus on what you're doing at that moment, if you're with your kids when you're there, if you're with your spouse when you're there, if you're with your God when you're there, if you're with your business and working it hard when you're there, you will be the most effective person you can possibly be. I promise. Alright? But for right now, last little tip is generally what I do from I'll generally read for like a half hour before I go to sleep. That's my personal development time. But for like 15 minutes or so, I'm trying to make that a tiny sliver. For 15 minutes or so before I go to sleep, I will be writing out what I'm doing for the next day. So if it's Monday, I'll have a list for Tuesday. If it's Tuesday, I'll have a list for Wednesday. And so I don't have to wake up in the morning wondering what I have to do for that day. I know what it is, and I can jump on it the second I wake up. Alright? Sounds good. So I want to make this video just so you can practice taking control of your days instead of your days controlling you. Stop feeling like you're losing time. Stop feeling like time is running away from you. Stop living in a tornado of anxiety and stress instead of actually being effective where you are and with what you're doing, whether it be business, family, school, God, spouse, whatever. Being effective with what you're doing and therefore being the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. All right? Write out your hours, be where you are, and make a list for the next day, and I guarantee life will seem a lot more doable, and it will seem like it's a lot more in your control versus it controlling you. Alright guys, have a great afternoon. I love you. If there's anything I can do, let me know, but I will talk to you very, very soon. Have a good one. Bye.